It's insane how powerful some suits can be in the Marvel Universe. Seriously, some suits just reach a level of strength that's nearly incomprehensible. Today, I'm talking about the strongest Marvel suits that our favorite heroes and villains wear during their day job and how they stack up against each other. I promise, this isn't an all Iron Man list, and I've tried to space it out a bit, so let's see how this goes. Let's get started right now. James Rhodes is in an interesting position in the MCU. He's always been a supporting character to Iron Man, but now that Tony Stark is relaxing and annoying every ghost in the afterlife, it's time for Rhodey to step up and take center stage. And with the War Machine armor, he deserves it. The War Machine armor itself is a little more basic than Tony's typical suits, but what it lacks in innovation, it makes up for in big guns. Like, sometimes Iron Man is just an Iron Man, but War Machine is a true War Machine. His guns have guns, and those guns also have little tiny guns on top of it. He's the cavalry you call when you need assistance, and while his suits have changed over the years, he generally keeps it loaded and ready to go when necessary. I'm putting Crimson Dynamo so early on this list mainly because I want the character to factor into the upcoming Armor Wars TV show, and he would pair well with Rhodey given the subject matter of Tony's tech falling into the wrong hands. It's hard to narrow down all of Crimson Dynamo's abilities because there have been a lot of upgrades and users of the same name. I'll specifically highlight Valentin Shatilov, though, because I think he's one of the most interesting wearers of the Crimson Dynamo armor. His version of the armor was an enhanced suit of armor that granted him strength, flight, invulnerability, and came with a powerful fusion caster chest beam that could do some serious damage. Could you imagine a scenario where Crimson Dynamo faces Red Guardian in the MCU? That'd be fun, right? Apocalypse was one of the most disappointing live-action villains in the X-Men movies, which is really saying a lot given the whole list of disappointing villains in that franchise.
Don't you know who I am?
But I think it's important to highlight that in the comics, Apocalypse is not only one of the greatest villains, but he also has an incredible suit of armor. In the comics, his armor was crafted by Celestials, and it added to Apocalypse's already insane set of skills. If there's any villain that didn't need a high-tech suit of armor to make them more powerful, it's definitely Apocalypse. And now with the X-Men soon joining the MCU and the fact that Celestials are becoming a bigger thing, I don't see why the MCU couldn't reboot Apocalypse and give him a comic-accurate suit of armor. Sure, that would be bad for all of our heroes, but good for the audience. Christopher Powell is the cosmic hero known as Darkhawk, and his skill set is fascinating and one I hope to see sometime soon in the MCU. You see, Powell once discovered an amulet that allowed him to be connected to an advanced suit of raptor armor, and together Powell became the superhero known as Darkhawk. Powell is able to transfer his consciousness into the android and use it to fight bad guys. The armor itself is an ancient piece of tech that has all the standard armor upgrades like strength, speed, durability, flight, self-repair, force fields, as well as being able to summon weapons from the extra-dimensional expanse. So he could pull a unique weapon out of anywhere, which is definitely a unique capability. Move over, Iron Man, because Titanium Man is here. Okay, I think that name is clunky. Yes, Iron Man doesn't exactly make sense anymore since Tony has upgraded way past Iron, but his superhero name still rolls off the tongue rather easily, unlike Titanium Man. But who is this villain? Well, like a lot of Tony Stark's bad guys, Titanium Man is a tech-based character who uses a suit of armor that gives him strength, speed, and durability. Also, he probably sets off the metal detector at every airport, which feels like a major inconvenience. I love suits that are basically built into the hero, and that's why I think Guardian is fascinating. James Hudson, who also has gone by Weapon Alpha, can be considered the Canadian Captain America. He is the founding member and leader of the team known as Alpha Fight, and possesses a whole range of abilities. But let's talk about his suit. His suit originally in the comics was a cybernetically controlled bodysuit that allowed him to fly by directing beams of force toward the ground, as well as gave him all the standard superhero stuff like strength and speed. What's interesting though is that as time went on, Hudson was eventually turned into a cyborg that had his power suit basically built inside of him, and made him even more powerful. So I ask you this very important question: would you turn into a cyborg knowing it would make you more powerful? Ironheart hasn't been officially introduced in the MCU yet, but we all expect big things from her since in the comics, she's proven to be a worthy successor to the Iron Man mantle. Riri Williams spends her life looking up toward Tony Stark, and that eventually leads to her being mentored by the genius billionaire playboy philanthropist. She designs her own suit at first, and her first model is powerful and has some interesting abilities, but it's clunky and a little awkward. Once Riri starts working with Tony Stark, she gets a major suit upgrade, which gives her a fun suit that she can do some serious damage with. On top of that, her suit actually comes with the computerized mind of Tony Stark in it. Can you just imagine for a second if RDJ came back to voice a digital version of himself in the Ironheart TV show? That'd be awesome. Hisako Ichiki is a mutant who has a very unique ability that allows her to summon a transparent suit of psionic armor around her in order to fight evildoers, and I think that's enough to warrant a spot on this list. I mean, first of all, the suit never needs to be washed or repaired, which I'm sure is like the #1 thing someone like War Machine is required to do after every battle. No, Ichiki has this psionic armor and is powered by the memory of her ancestors. When focusing, she can make the armor grow bigger, stronger, and unleash a lot more physical damage. We've seen the Destroyer in the MCU almost take out Thor, but in the comics, its history is much more complex and its uses have been way more epic. So the Destroyer is an ancient suit of armor created by Odin that was capable of housing vast amounts of God's energies in order to specifically battle the Celestials. Yes, while the Destroyer sat dormant for many years, the god of mischief Loki eventually found it and tried to use it against Thor. But let's not forget why it was originally created, and I want to highlight one specific instance here. When the Celestials did return and threatened to destroy everything, Odin ended up absorbing most of the Asgardians' energy, and then used that to actually enter the armor to fight in. That's wild. The Godbuster armor is arguably the most powerful suit of armor Tony Stark has ever created, and it's only on the middle of this list because it turned out to be so overpowered that Tony decided to destroy it. It originally came from the virtual reality known as Escape, which Tony Stark developed and subsequently was captured by because of course he was. While in virtual reality, Tony's brain basically unlocked itself and there were no limitations to the things he could create, which led to the Godbuster armor. It's been called Tony's masterpiece and the ultimate weapon, and Tony used it to defeat the evil AI known as Motherboard. But once he was in the real world, he decided that the suit was too powerful to ever be used again, and decided to destroy it. But I mean, come on. It's a suit of armor that is literally so powerful that it could defeat anything, so of course the writers had to find a way to take it out. I've talked about Black Panther suits in past videos, but one I wanted to highlight here is T'Challa's red Black Panther suit. Or I guess I should just call it the Red Panther suit? Anyway, this suit is a major upgrade compared to his normal suit. It comes with a bunch of fancy sounding stuff like thrice blessed vibranium Danbei boxing cords, which help enhance his martial arts skills, stone from the Wakandan necropolis, which allows him to channel the spirits from all the past Black Panthers, and anti-magic defense protocols. Yeah, you know when a suit does all that, you're nearly unstoppable. The Hulkbuster may not be the strongest suit on this list, but it's one of the most useful. Its specific function is just to provide a good level of defense whenever the Hulk goes on a rampage, which happens way more in the comics than it does in the MCU. Tony Stark and Bruce Banner helped design it in order to make sure the Hulk could be stopped if the worst case scenario happened. We've seen it a few times in action, and it's always a blast to watch Hulk and the Hulkbuster armor throw down, specifically because it shows how even when there's a suit of armor designed to contain the Hulk, it still has trouble, showing how dangerous the Hulk can be. More Hulkbuster in the MCU, please. I was a big fan of the Superior Spider-Man arc because it was interesting to see someone like Otto Octavius try to become a good guy, even if his methods were way more aggressive than Peter's ever were. But Otto's new Spidey suit specifically highlighted everything Peter's suit was missing in terms of attack functionality. A lot of the time, Peter just likes his simple suit because he's a strong enough hero without any additional add-ons, but Otto had a different approach to it. While in Peter's body, he upgraded the suit with specialty add-ons like an advanced AI system, nerve hacking technology, lasers, specialty spider arms, as well as enhanced lenses to help him detect things like certain frequencies and radio waves. It's kind of fun, don't you think? In the MCU, we've seen a ton of amazing robot fights, but we still haven't seen the equivalent of a giant robot fight against a powerful foe Power Rangers style, and that's a big shame. That's why I like the Godkiller armor so much. This was a ginormous suit of armor developed by Tony Stark in order to go toe-to-toe with Celestials. It's powered by 8 nuclear reactors, so yeah, you can't just plug it into an outlet and hope it charges overnight like your phone. But as awesome in theory as this suit is, and while it could probably beat almost anyone, it didn't do so well against the Celestials. You know, the things this armor was specifically made to fight. In a funny move, the suit is destroyed almost immediately, which feels like just a huge waste of money and time. The Doomwar armor is one I wanted to highlight because its origins and story around it would make for a great basis for Black Panther 2. Basically, the gist is that Dr. Doom and his country of Latveria go to war with Wakanda over their supply of vibranium, and Doom has the upper hand for most of this event. He successfully invades and then makes a suit of armor completely out of vibranium and adds his own signature style to it to help make it do things like control all metal. It's an almost unstoppable suit, and it forces Black Panther to activate a device that renders all the vibranium on Earth inert, and therefore not very powerful. That's a drastic measure, but could you imagine if they could adapt this to the MCU? I like the idea of vibranium being the crux of all of Wakanda, and the new Black Panther having to make a decision to take it off the board for everyone would be harrowing to see. It's clear so far that Iron Man loves to bust things, but I find his Phoenix-busting armor to be one of the most fascinating. It was designed by Tony and Hank Pym to battle the Phoenix Force, which we know is one of the strongest cosmic forces in the universe. And guess what? It actually sort of worked. The armor had a massive power disruptor specifically designed to take down the Phoenix Force, and Tony Stark was able to hit it head-on. Of course, like most of Tony's ideas and intentions, things went awry. Yes, it did manage to break the Phoenix Force up into different parts, but those parts immediately possessed 5 nearby X-Men and caused even more problems. So, a powerful suit? Absolutely, but maybe it wasn't used in the best way. You'll see as we get near the end of this list, I've chosen a lot of suits of armor that blend the best of both worlds. There's just something about a suit of armor that takes 2 different styles and meshes them together that I think is just so cool. So that's why I want to rank the Iron Spider suit so high. In the comics, it combines Peter Parker's natural strength and abilities with the tech and integrity of an Iron Man suit. Those 2 things together make an almost unstoppable combo, right? Peter doesn't necessarily need a suit to be a hero, but giving him an Iron Spider suit, which enhances his abilities, gives him access to more gadgets, and provides more information, as well as helps things like his agility and defenses, just launches the Iron Spider to one of the best suits of armor ever. Again, it just really helps when the person wearing the suit is already a powerful superhero. One of Tony Stark's most game-changing suits of armor is his Bleeding Edge suit, which fixed that clunky issue of always needing time to step into a suit of armor to fight bad guys. Bleeding Edge is an all-nanotechnology suit, which lives directly inside of Tony's body. Upon mental command, the armor can reveal itself and basically take the shape of anything it wants. With this armor, Tony became less of a genius billionaire who needs a suit to beat up bad guys, and more of a literal walking suit of armor who can never be caught defenseless. On top of that, as a fun add-on, the node that controls the Bleeding Edge armor has only made Tony even smarter than he was before, which is wild to think about. Dr. Doom had another suit of armor on here earlier, but the best of his suits has to be the mystical armor. Not only does it highlight Doom's brains, as well as his tendency to rely on magic from time to time, but the way he got this certain all-powerful suit is a little horrifying. In order to get the suit, he had to make a deal where he would sacrifice something he could never replace. He chose a woman named Valeria, who was the only person he ever loved in the past. Sacrificing her, her skin transformed into the leather that holds the armor together, which, gross. Seems like him and Thanos would have a lot to talk about. If Doom showed up in the MCU wearing the leathered skin of his past loved one, that would make him a terrifying enemy for anyone to face. Alright, my final armor that I want to talk about takes the mystical Doom armor one step farther, and nobody even had to be sacrificed for it. Isn't that cool? I'm of course talking about the Sorcerer Supreme armor from the comics that occurred in a what-if story where Tony Stark became the Sorcerer Supreme. So he gets all these magical powers, but also wants to build a suit to go with it. So this armor is created, and it's the perfect blend of technology and magic. Those two things together are probably the two biggest factors in ranking a powerful suit, so when you have the best of both worlds in one place, then yeah, of course this suit is going to rule. Basically, this suit has the Eye of Agamotto embedded in its chest plate and can do things like detect incoming spells, as well as suggest counter spells. If you're a sorcerer, then yeah, why not make yourself even more powerful with a fully functional suit of armor? I've talked all about suits in this video, but out of everyone I mentioned, who would be the strongest outside the suit? Peter Parker's got all the powers with or without a suit, but Tony Stark has the brains, so I'm torn. What do you think?